Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Birds of a Feather podcast. My name is Jeremy, and I'm the co-founder of Feather, and we're chatting with people who've been both passionate and skilled in the art of building meaningful connections. And I am super excited to introduce today's guest, Amy, who founded Talent Executives, and that only came after recognizing her passion for recruiting while working in the Fortune 500 banking industry for what, Amy, like 15 years, 20 years or so? Amy also just launched Networking Executives, which is a platform for bringing the brightest minds together in person. So big congrats on the launch. I know a lot has gone into that. But yeah, welcome, and thanks so much for being on with us today.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So Amy, just to kind of like set the stage for our listeners, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how relationships have been key to your success. Specifically in the recruiting industry, and as a founder and as somebody that is going after multiple ventures, would love to hear what role have a relationship played for you?
So what I've learned over the years is that relationships and networking mean way more than I ever expected as a younger Amy. So going through life, I felt like I would meet people along the way, and I would continue to keep in touch, but I didn't really realize how important relationships were. As I built Talent Executives, which is our nationwide recruiting firm, it's been interesting to me to really understand how people looking for jobs are not taking networking as seriously as they need to be, and assuming that a job is going to fall in their lap, whereas nowadays networking is more important than ever. So that's just one individual piece of really understanding the need to help people find networking events and encourage people to go to networking events.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny, networking is an interesting topic because sometimes you hear network, you're a networker, and it has like a negative connotation. But done properly, like your network is your net worth in a lot of cases, especially in the professional sense. So, how did you come up with the idea of building out the new startup? And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, it came from getting out of the shower one day. So I know that sounds completely random. However, I was keeping up a pretty much what you would consider an Excel spreadsheet with networking events that I had been to. I would go to events, I would categorize them in a green, yellow, or red category as to whether or not I thought it was worth my time. And I continued to keep up with that spreadsheet so that I wouldn't forget to continue to check back with certain organizations. Well, throughout that, I received calls and emails from friends and colleagues and people I've networked with asking for my calendar. What am I going to the next month? What am I missing? What are they missing for next week? And realizing that it's really difficult and it becomes a part-time job to find events that are out there and opportunities to network. So all of us, myself as well, we're spending hours every week trying to find events and trying to find ways to network. And so one morning I got out of the shower and started thinking, oh my gosh, I completely forgot to message Eli and tell him what I was working on. Or what events I was going to. So I got to my computer and started picking out personalized events that I thought would benefit him and his company. And it came to me that instead of doing this on an individual basis for everyone, there's a real need for a website or a tool that would aggregate all of the professional quality vetted networking events in a particular geographic area where individuals could go online and filter by industry, filter by calendar, filter by paid or free, member or not, and really have one platform that they could go and even register for events, add them to their calendar, and save the time that they would spend every week hunting for the events and actually use that time to attend the events and build true, meaningful relationships.
Yeah, I think there's something that really standing out to me is in the follow-up. You just mentioned Eli and, meeting an Eli. I'm sure we've all met multiple Elis at these kind of events. And sometimes it's uncomfortable too, just breaking the ice and getting out there. But you meet people, and sometimes they're like, hey, I feel like I've known you my whole life, or hey, there's definitely some synergy here. But the follow up and the follow through is really where the legendary relationships kind of kick off, right? So how do
Yes.
you, when you think of these type of events, manage, I meet 10, 12, 20, 100 people in a night? Like, how do you stay organized and keep the ball rolling?
I think that there's always an opportunity to even do it better. I think it's a work in progress, and tools that could help us in this type of an environment are massive because it's hard. It's really hard. LinkedIn is, a great tool. We all use it from a professional networking standpoint, but having tools that remind us to follow up with people on a certain date, having tools that remind us who we met at certain events so that we can reach out to them and let them know that we're attending another event similar to the one that we met at, and will they be there? And we'd love to grab a cup of coffee beforehand. I have really, really realized that having in-person meetings, even if it's over a cup of coffee, is so much more advantageous and beneficial than talking, over the phone. A Zoom if necessary, but really trying to make the time to have that real in-person connection is something you can't recreate.
Yeah. Yeah. My one of my old bosses and mentors, Brian, he's an incredible sales leader. He would always talk about it as taking the bunny slippers off. And you got to get out
Absolutely.
there and get out there and get in person. There's nothing more impactful than a hug or a handshake. And like, people trust people when you're putting in the effort. So I couldn't agree with you more. But it does take a lot of effort. Especially like you meet a bunch of people, you don't really know where and how and what is going to come of it. It does take effort, and there are trade-offs, right? I know you've got a family, I've got a family. Like, we're all professionals, but we're also juggling that. So sometimes relationships take a hit, especially the professional ones, and they have to, right? Like, you got to go to the graduation. Can't not go to the graduation. But sometimes not putting the effort causes a misstep, and or we might miss out on an opportunity because of it. And I'm curious if you have any stories where you're like, hey, I wish I had done more. I wish I had put in some effort there, or anything that stands out to you in terms of a relationship that never really got off the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you said, it takes a lot of effort. And so, trying to help people take the effort out of finding the events was really the goal of this. However, all of us in attending events are having to take time away from family, from friends, or from our day-to-day work. What I've learned is that a huge focus of mine over the last year has been really building those professional networks, really building those connections, and taking it a step further so that they're not just a work connection, but truly building it into a life connection. I've also noticed that the friend connection has taken a bit of a hit throughout this. And I had to apologize to some friends recently just to say, I'm sorry that I'm not at all of these events that everybody goes to. I just don't have the time. And oftentimes people that don't work, sometimes they don't understand. But I think communicating and allowing them to understand what you're going through is important. Even my husband, I have to tell him all the time, I've got another event tonight. I'm so sorry. And having the support system is incredibly important. I know my husband, Steve, he's so proud of everything that I've built and the connections that I've made, and he understands where this is going. So I think just communicating with everybody as much as possible. And even if it's not a verbal communication, but sending a message or a text message every now and then is really important.
Yeah, love that. When you look at the impact, like, it is a trade-off, but having the support is huge. And so Steve sounds like a stand-up guy, so hopefully he listens to this and he hears how much you admire him. The truth is, though, that, like, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, but we go through these kind of cycles and these phases, and I've found personally that, like, finding ways to integrate the work and the life and creating in some sense of harmony around that. It's really nice. Like there was a period of time where my wife, who's working over at Zscaler, she and I used to go to events together. And I would actually kind of like follow in her shadow, because she's kind of, she's the ray of light in the relationship.
The extrovert.
She is. Yeah, she's great. But it's nice to be able to go and experience that. And I think that, real friendships understand where you're at and meet you where you are. But if you don't put in that time, you don't get those friendships and that trust. So I'm curious to hear, we've all got one or two of those really great relationships where we put in the time. You put the time into the trenches. It's ride or die, right? Is there someone that stands out to you, or like a story around how you've developed a lifelong relationship you can share with us?
Yeah, I'd actually like to share two of them. One of them, my girlfriend Heather. Heather Lyle is an amazing connector. Everything she touches turns to gold, and she has built a networking group called the Champagne Board, which is an incredible way for entrepreneurs to come together. But beyond that, she is involved in fundraising and community service, and gives everything that she's got. And just having her by my side to bounce ideas off of, and for us to have these great conversations on the way that we can grow our entrepreneurial businesses individually, but with the support of each other and our networks, has been tremendous and really, really helped me grow. And then an interesting story, I'll keep it brief, but I met my friend Joe Fang, who's an amazing headshot photographer. And we met over LinkedIn, decided to meet for coffee one day. And at the coffee shop, the very first time that I met him, I happened to make a comment that I was going to this really large event from a networking perspective. And I really wasn't super comfortable networking in a large room with people I didn't know. And everybody already had their little groups of people. But I was new to this organization. And right off the bat, he said, well, I'll go. And I looked at him like he was nuts. And he was like, no, really, I'll go with you. What time is it? And what day? And I thought, okay, I'm going to get in the car with this guy I've never met before until today, and we're going to drive 30 miles to this event. And I'm sure my husband's going to love that. But we ended up going to this event together. And not only were we there for each other in terms of kind of a home base, right? Like we could each go network, but we had a home base to come to when we turned around and there was nobody to go talk to. And it helped to introduce each other and all of that. But it has grown into a relationship that has been phenomenal in terms of us both helping each other with each other's businesses. And we actually have something really exciting that we have planned later this year that we'll be working on together. But just being able to have those core people that would do anything for you and continue to lift you up when you're having a tough day and cheer you on, and also tell you you're crazy when there's an idea that might not work. So just really having those people is something I couldn't ask for more of. But I do want to reiterate the point that for those that aren't comfortable going to events, and those people that aren't comfortable going into large rooms of people, having a buddy, like a wingman, just as a home base, really makes things so much easier until you get more comfortable and until you build relationships with people in the room.
Yeah, that's great feedback, and we'll come back to that in a moment here. I saw your headshot, and if Joe took that headshot, it's 2 thumbs up from my end over here too. Really
did.
Nice.
Thank you.
But yeah, I want to go back to one of the things that you said around growth and being able to have like-minded individuals together. Getting people that you can invest in, and create safe, open, trusted lines of communication, and then help each other. It's really key. But it again, like with everything, it takes time, it takes effort. So just question for you, like you meet a lot of people at all of these different kinds of events. How do you know who the right people are to actually go and put the time? Because as much as you might want to invest in everybody, you can't. We can't.
You
right?
can't.
Can't.
You can't. And it's a great question. because there's really no right answer. And I think that's what most people need to take away is that you don't know who's in that room. You don't know that the person wearing the fancy shoes is any more important than the person that showed up in a pair of flip-flops. Like you just don't know. And you cannot look at people from a face value perspective, but ensuring that you keep an open mind and are open to other people introducing you. So many of the relationships that I've made have not even been because I've walked up to somebody to make them, but because somebody else has said, "Oh my gosh, Amy, you need to meet this person. Do you mind if I introduce you?" Absolutely, I don't mind. Would I take a half hour out of my day to do a quick meeting with them, a Zoom or whatever? 100%. And so it's really keeping that open mind because there are so many people that you will walk into a room full of people, and if you don't give somebody the time of day, that could have been the person that was the next big move for you. So that's really, if I had to say anything, it is walk the room, make the connections, shake the hands. LinkedIn is great with the QR code where you can go ahead and just do a scan of the QR code to get the contact information and follow up after the event. You never know who's in the room and you never know what they do and what they can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in that, on that same vein, because I think we've been really going into the networking topic here, which I think is huge. For people who are listening that are new, we've heard now, have a home base, have a buddy, have a wingman, somebody that can go give you a sense of maybe confidence in a room where, you're having to go put yourself out there and be vulnerable. It's like, here are different people that you may have never met, and maybe they're judging us and things along those lines. What's one more thing that, as a professional in this space, you can leave our listeners with that's actionable in the event they're going to an event that has helped you maximize that time or really build meaningful relationships coming out of those events?
Absolutely. Research. So I think that researching is super important before you walk into a room, before you go to the organization's event. Research to see who's speaking on the panel. Research to see who the organizers of the event are, what influential people might be there. Look at it on LinkedIn. They'll be generally speaking on LinkedIn. You'll see members post about events that they'll be at. Look at their photo, look at their background as to where they work and their positions that they have, and pick out a few people that you really want to meet at that event. Go ahead and jot them down on your phone and you remember where they work, that type of a thing, so that when you meet them, you can say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I got to meet you. I believe that you work at X organization, and I was really looking forward to being here today in order to just introduce myself." That right there is going to wow them because that doesn't happen every day. And that took research and time on your part, but it's meeting the right person and knowing that you're going to make a solid connection. So I would do a little bit of back end research before you go.
That's awesome. That's great feedback. And Amy, these have been super powerful insights. It's so good hearing all of the things that you're doing and being able to just witness, what you're building. It's incredible.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Whether it's talking about how do you act and how do you build momentum inside these events, or how do you find them, right? There's a pretty awesome company that's launching that is going to be a great place to go find it. But I think the one key takeaway that you just shared, which is preparation, right? In terms of the research that you're doing and setting an intention, right? Coming into these kind of events, it translates into the relationships also, right? It's fun and it's nice and it's light and it's easy once you've built those relationships and you have the trust and you can go and really show up and do those things and be yourself. But going that extra mile for whether it is a new relationship or somebody that you've spent your entire life knowing makes a huge difference. And so that research and that prep, whether it's going to an event or even just getting together for lunch, I think makes a huge difference. And it's definitely powerful.
It does. And honestly, as you start getting yourself out there, you start building those connections, you start building that network, and you start seeing the same people at events and in different locations. And it makes you feel so much more comfortable when you go and know that I'm probably going to see a familiar face. So it's just a matter of getting out there. It's like that initial push. Take that, buddy. It's the initial push, and then it all starts falling into place.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. Well, Amy, the time here today has been incredible, and the stories you've shared, the insights you've shared, they really illustrate why like taking the time to be intelligent in your approach on relationships can really make an impact on our professional lives. And for everyone who's listening, if this conversation's resonated with you, we'd certainly love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Anyone who's interested in the intersection of technology and authentic relationship development, feel free to check out feather.vip and sign up for our beta. My name's Jeremy. This has been Birds of a Feather, and we'll catch you on the next episode.